Imposed on foreign lands that took advantage of the United States for decades and decades have enabled us to make great trade deals where there were none. Tens of billions of dollars are now paid to the United States Treasury by these same countries. But there and then, we got hit by the virus that came from China. We are producing gowns and masks and surgical equipment in our country, where heretofore it was almost exclusively made in foreign lands, in particular China, where, ironically, this virus and others came from. China's secrecy, deceptions, and cover-up allowed it to spread all over the world, 189 countries. And China must be held fully accountable. We unbelievably well and are in deep testing on vaccines, treatments, and therapeutics.
Treasury, Commerce, and DHS are issuing a business advisory to companies with supply chain links to entities complicit in forced labor and other human rights abuses in Xinjiang and throughout China. CEOs should read this notice closely and be aware of the reputational, economic, and legal risks of supporting such assaults on human dignity. I want to call attention to recent credible and deeply disturbing new reports that the Chinese Communist Party is imposing forced sterilization and abortions on Uyghurs and other minorities in Western China. This shocking news is, sadly, consistent with the CCP's decades-long callous disregard for the sanctity of human life. I call on all nations, women's advocates, religious groups, and human rights organizations to stand up for the Chinese people's basic human dignity. Look, the Chinese Communist Party's brutality affects the rest of the world too. We welcome India's ban on certain mobile apps that can serve as appendages of the CCP's surveillance state. India's clean app approach will also boost India's integrity and national security, as the Indian government itself has stated.
The last time 3 U.S. aircraft carriers operated at the same time in the Western Pacific, the U.S. was trying to deter North Korea from its nuclear weapons program. The rare incident is now happening again, but this time USS Nimitz, Theodore Roosevelt, and Ronald Reagan were there because of China.
While the Chinese Communist Party ramps up its disinformation campaign to try to shift blame and burnish its image, we continue to see aggressive behavior by the PLA in the South China Sea.
The PLA has escalated border tensions. We see them today in India, the world's most populous democracy. We watch as it militarizes the South China Sea and illegally claims more territory there, threatening vital sea lanes.
Since 2015, the Chinese regime has built man-made islands, militarizing them with airports, aircraft, and missiles. The area is of great global importance. Nearly a third of the world's maritime trade passes through this area of water. It is the lifeline for important U.S. allies like Korea and Japan, who import over 90% of their crude oil through this route. Meanwhile, beneath the ocean is buried over 10 billion barrels of oil and almost 200 trillion cubic feet of natural gas, although one Chinese regime-owned oil major put the figures much higher. International law says that every country can claim an exclusive economic zone extending up to 200 nautical miles for activities like drilling or fishing. But China claims Beijing reaches as far as 1,200 miles from the south of mainland China, including areas very close to the coast of Malaysia, the Philippines, and Vietnam. In 2016, the Hague International Tribunal concluded that there was no legal basis for China's claim to the territory. And for years, the U.S. has navigated its warships through the area to show that it is not recognizing China's claim, to build man-made islands and militarizing them.